But here's where things took an even darker turn. The judge recognized something in the footage that no one else noticed. A small, almost hidden detail linked to their childhood, something only he and the defendant would recognize. The judge's heart pounded. Was this new evidence a clue to his friend's innocence, or proof of guilt? The stakes were now higher than ever, and the judge's next decision could change both their lives forever. The judge allowed the new evidence to be shown, and the courtroom fell into a heavy silence as the blurry footage played on the screen. The grainy image showed a figure near the crime scene, but it was the small detail, the worn-out keychain dangling from the person's pocket, that caught the judge's eye. It was the same keychain his childhood friend had cherished for years, a gift from when they were kids. The judge felt his stomach drop. This wasn't just about duty anymore. This was personal. But just as the judge braced himself for the worst, the defense attorney pointed out something no one had noticed. The timestamp on the footage didn't match the timeline of the crime. The defendant couldn't have been at the scene when the crime occurred. The jury returned shortly after, delivering a verdict of not guilty relief washed over the defendant's face. But as he left the courtroom, he paused, giving the judge a look that sent chills down his spine, a knowing glance, almost like a silent confession. The judge realized then his friend might have escaped justice this time, but the truth was far more complicated than anyone could see. As the courtroom emptied, the judge sat alone, replaying everything in his mind. His childhood friend had been found not guilty but that lingering glance suggested a darker truth. The judge realized that even though the legal system had done its job, some answers would never come from a verdict. Their shared past now felt like a shadow hanging over both of them, one bound by memories, the other by suspicion. In the days that followed, the judge couldn't shake the feeling of unease. He had upheld the law, but justice felt incomplete. Meanwhile, the defendant disappeared from town, leaving behind whispers and unanswered questions. The case closed, but the story didn't feel over. This experience left the judge, and everyone who witnessed it, questioning how much of our past defines us. Can we ever truly leave it behind, or does it find a way to catch up, even in the most unexpected places? Imagine standing in court, waiting for your sentence, when suddenly the judge looks up and recognizes you. That's exactly what happened in today's unbelievable story. A man stood trial for a serious crime, but when the judge glanced at him, something changed. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the judge realized he knew the defendant from years ago. They were childhood friends. You could see the shock on both their faces, but what happened next? No one in the courtroom could have predicted it. Was the judge able to stay unbiased, or did their past friendship blur the lines of justice? And how did the defendant react, knowing the person deciding his fate shared memories from their youth? This story will have you questioning how far loyalty and justice can stretch. Stick around to find out how this emotional rollercoaster unfolds. You won't believe the ending. Years ago, the judge and the defendant were inseparable, best friends growing up in the same neighborhood, playing in the same streets, dreaming about their futures. But life took them down very different paths. While one stayed focused, went to law school, and climbed the ranks to become a respected judge, the other got caught up in trouble, making choices that led him down a darker road. Now, here they were, face to face in the most unexpected place, a courtroom. The judge tried to keep his expression neutral, but the memories were flooding back. The defendant, on the other hand, looked both embarrassed and desperate, as if silently pleading for some kind of understanding. The courtroom was silent, the tension so thick you could feel it in the air. Everyone wondered, would their shared past affect the outcome, or would justice be served, no matter the personal history between them? As the trial continued, the judge wrestled with his emotions, trying to stay professional. But every piece of evidence, every witness that took the stand, pulled at old memories. He remembered the defendant as the kid who shared his lunch in school, the one who had his back in every playground scuffle. But now, that same friend was being accused of a serious crime, one that could put him behind bars for years. The prosecutor painted a harsh picture, detailing the crime with cold facts, while the defense argued there was more to the story, hinting at possible mistakes in the investigation. Meanwhile, the jury remained unaware of the judge's connection, but the courtroom staff noticed the subtle tension. Even the defendant's eyes seemed to flicker between hope and fear every time he looked at the judge. The big question loomed over everyone: could the judge truly separate his past from his duty? As the final day of the trial approached, the tension in the courtroom was unbearable. Every eye was on the judge, though no one knew the personal battle he was fighting inside. The closing arguments were powerful. The prosecutor was relentless, painting the defendant as guilty beyond a doubt, while the defense attorney passionately insisted there were gaps in the evidence, urging the jury to consider reasonable doubt. But the real drama wasn't just in the arguments, it was in the unspoken connection between the judge and the man on trial. The judge's hands tightened on the bench as he prepared to give the jury their instructions. His mind raced with memories of their childhood, the laughter, the promises they made as kids to always have each other's backs. But now, it wasn't about friendship, it was about justice. As the jury left to deliberate, the defendant shot the judge one last look, filled with both hope and fear. The room was thick with suspense. What would the verdict be, and how would the judge respond when it was time to face the truth? Just when everyone thought the tension couldn't get any thicker, an unexpected twist sent shockwaves through the courtroom. As the jury deliberated, a last-minute piece of evidence surfaced: security footage from a nearby store that hadn't been reviewed during the trial. The footage showed a shadowy figure at the scene of the crime, but it was too blurry to make out clear details. However, what caught everyone off guard was what happened next. The defense attorney requested an emergency motion to present this new evidence, and the judge had to decide whether to allow it.